All right, guys, so in this video, I sit down and have a conversation with John Mcafee. I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with John, but John's most well known for creating McAfee antivirus software. Some of his opinions and predictions on Bitcoin. He even ran for president of the Libertarian Party in the last election cycle. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video. John and I go through a whole range of topics from politics to coronavirus to cryptocurrency, hyperinflation, and everything in between. Thank you guys for tuning into the video. I hope you enjoy. All right, guys. So thank you for joining us. I've got Mr. John Mcafee here on the video with me. Obviously, I think John needs no introduction, so I want to jump right into it. So, John, thank you for being here with us today.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. So, John, as you know, of course, we're in unprecedented times. So there's a number of things I'm very excited to get your input on. One of the things I know you've been really active in talking about, and I've shared, I think a lot of your perspective on this has been your take on coronavirus and, really the way it's been reported and the way that people are acting, when you're out and about and what we're seeing. So what can you share with us that, that you think now that maybe is a bit different than the mainstream opinion?
I think everything is different from the mainstream media. Okay, I think that what has happened is that there has been a massive overreaction to a virus that, in truth, has killed 1/3 as many as the flu in the same period of time. The flu killed 630,000, or last year, 630,000 people, and it's 5 months of flu season. Coronavirus has killed 267,000. And it's about to die out, at least in the northern hemisphere. If you look at the numbers of the World Health Organization, the slope is continuing downward. Daily death rate. So I think we've overreacted to the point that was our future economy, jobs, deaths even. Because as the economy collapses in the world, deaths always increase dramatically. Even last year, for example, the economy wasn't that bad. We were able to ship thousands of tons of food to India, Africa, and Southern Asia. Still, 12.5 million people died from starvation. And look at unemployment in America now. In the history of our country, nothing has touched the unemployment rate that we're now seeing. When and if lockdown is over, tens of thousands of businesses will go bankrupt and millions will permanently lose their jobs. I mean, I think of small businesses that live hand to mouth. That even shutting down for vacation or something is a hardship for them, and suddenly 2 months no income, they still have to pay rent. Their employees are not getting paid. If you're a restaurant, all of your inventory has gone bad, and then restaurants inventory is your greatest expense and your most critical aspect of the business, and it's very small margin business. I suspect that 25 or 30% of all restaurants are out of business. The airline industry, which has to pay leases on its airplanes, and 80% of all airplanes are leased, by the way, for the major airlines, have to pay those leases every week, whether they're carrying customers or not. So they're having zero income and still the massive expense, and their margins are not that great. Beyond the airlines, you've got the hotel industries. Every hotel in the world is virtually shut down. Hotels are another thing that have a not a huge margin, and when they go through lean periods, like in the winter, if you're in a summer vacation area, they barely survive. So we're going to have an economic meltdown, worldwide economic meltdown of unbelievable proportions. I'm sorry, sir. Hang on. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. No problem. At least the still frame we got a good pic of you though.
There we go. Okay, sorry. So now, So this meltdown is not going to be just in America, it's going to be worldwide. And so this systemic meltdown where, listen, if you disturb even one small part of a web work of relationships and dependencies that exist in the world, um, it disturbs the entire web, everything. And now suddenly, every thread on that web has been disturbed. I mean, the web is simply going to collapse, and we're going to have to rebuild it from the ground up. And
Yeah.
these 12.5 million people who last year starved to death, it will be 200 million in 6 months. I promise you. Was this worth it, people? You locked yourselves in because of fear. Well, there's a far greater fear that you should worry about. That's the fear of being able or not being able to feed your family, watching your children die of starvation, of
Yeah.
the society around you collapsing. So that's my feeling.
No, and I think I agree with you on all that. And it's amazing to see, I think, how quickly people gave up, these things that we, have been so accustomed to or taken for granted, or the things that have been slowly evading us. People gave in so easily, and it's disappointing. And so, I think a lot of people, naturally, the elephant in the room is people want to chalk up, either the misinformation or the misdirection to, either ignorance or people not understanding the problem. But I seem to be in a camp where I think it's a bit more malicious than that.
No,
How do
you
you
see,
feel
I'm
about
not
it?
sure. I'm not sure it's more malicious, and not at all. Um,
Okay.
I believe that, well, I mean, maybe from the Chinese standpoint. I mean,
Yeah.
let's face it, the GDP in the first 4 months of this year has decreased for every country in the world from between 4% and 20%. 20%,
Wow.
with one exception, China. Their GDP increased 5%. Now,
Yeah.
how did they pull that one off? Well, first of all, by a sleight of hand, by number one, reporting. Oh, Jesus, we're so sorry. I don't know how this happened, but there's this outbreak. We're trying to contain it, but we need to warn you guys. And so they locked down. Did they really lock down? No. They locked down 2 tiny cities in a country of over almost 2 billion people. No. So they locked down 1/2 of 1% of their population. While the rest are out there working and cranking and building goods and war machines and tanks and planes, while we're
Yep.
producing nothing, people, nothing at all. Now, if there's going to be a winner, it sure as hell is China. We're all in the negative, they're in the positive. They're cranking and we're still locked down. I mean, if in fact China had world domination as its aim, it won. All it has to do now is tell its army of 500 million people, all right, go out and invade the world, or just lock down and no one can resist you, which is true. It's true. So what have we done is we have weakened ourselves as the Western world. Europe, America, Canada, all of North America, Australia, weakened ourselves. Well, with the exception of like the Japanese. Japanese are way too smart to do something stupid like locking down their economy.
Yep.
And so they said, no, we're not going to do it. They got all this pressure on the world. So they go, okay, we're declaring a state of national emergency. And they did. What was the result? Nothing. They passed no new laws, they passed no regulations, they forced people to do nothing. Nothing changed. It was a stroke of a pen to appease the Western of the world. And we're so stupid, we didn't notice that nothing changed in Japan. They didn't lock down. They have
Yeah.
the lowest death rate in the world. You know why so many people are dying? Because we're putting them on, especially in America, we're putting them on ventilators. They kill 80% of everybody who goes on a ventilator. And what is the death rate from people who go on ventilators from COVID? 90%.
Yep.
Look it up, people. No, does Japan even use ventilators? No. most of the rational world knows that ventilators, good God, that's a death sentence. Yet we have a motivation in America to do it. You get $39,000 if they go on a ventilator, but only 13 if they don't. Now you tell me if that's not an incentive to, do they need a ventilator? Absolutely. But they were just hit by a bus. No, they need a ventilator. Please, people. No.
Yeah, I mean, the things we incentivize or get more of.
Right. And if you doubt my numbers, New York City, for example, has a death rate 200 times higher than the average of the top 10 cities in the top 10 largest cities in the world. Please, people, do you not understand the impossibility of those statistics? So anyway, I could rant for hours on this because number one, the decision to give hospitals $39,000 if they go on ventilators has itself killed tens of thousands of Americans, people, and those responsible should be prosecuted and hopefully executed publicly to show governments, no, money is not worth human life. And you cannot change a reality by simply frightening people. You can change what people do. Yeah, they're going to go in the home and block the doors because of fear.
Yep.
But the truth is, if you look at the numbers, the flu kills more people. Well, how many people do you think die of pathogenic diarrhea every year from passing a virus by touching people or eating food? 2.5 million. 2.5 million people. Now, do we lock down the world because touching people might give you diarrhea and you'll die? No. Why? Because 2.5 million people is too damn small in a world of 7.8 billion to pay attention to. No one in their right mind would lock down, 2.5 million people? Yeah, sounds like a lot. No, it's nothing. Nothing, and so we don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
But coronavirus, what did it kill? 250,000, 250,000. Wake the fuck up, people. The only people where it's a staggering number is in America, where people are paid to put people on ventilators in order to kill them. Please, God, see, we are killing people through stupidity and fear. And I'm sorry for ranting. I'm an old man.
No, I love it.
I do that.
No, I appreciate it, John. I think this is what everybody watching, myself included, wants to hear, man. We want to hear, honest thoughts and honest opinions. And, I think we have the same goal, wanting to get to the truth, and one thing I can add just in what you said, John, is, so many people are, at least the way it's being reported, people are saying, well, what's going to happen if we open up? There's already so many countries. People are saying, what's going to happen if we open back up in the U.S.? And I think there's 2/3 of the world never shut down, right? I mean, there's so many countries to look at.
That's right. 2/3 of the world's never shut down.
Yeah.
They never locked down. And if you look at numbers, that part of the world has 1/10 of the deaths of the world that did, because the world locked down, got scared, put them on ventilators. If you're unsure, diagnose as COVID and treat them. Treat them? You mean kill them? We're killing people through these fucking ventilators, and doctors are saying ventilators are a death sentence. And people go, oh no, but only the worst sick. Bullshit, people. You come in and you've got a low O2 rate, but you feel fine. You're walking, you're not dizzy, which is what happens. Put them on a ventilator. They die. Healthy fucking people are dying, people. Again, I'm sorry. I'm ranting.
No, I love it. Well, I think one thing, John, I wanted to ask you about next, if you don't mind. I think it's it's at least in par with this. I know
we should get off of COVID, because otherwise I will reach through the screen and grab one of your listeners who happens to be an authority in Spain.
So I saw your tweet the other day. Obviously, John, I saw and followed closely your run for president in the last election cycle that we had for the Libertarian Party. So yes. What can you tell us about that?
Oh, well, listen, for the first time in human history, I'm running Well, here, let me explain something. The Libertarian Party, unlike the Democrats and Republicans, the president or the president, not the president-elect, but the nominee has the power to choose the vice president. I always do. I'm waiting for Biden to choose Michelle Obama. I predict this.
So that Biden's gonna choose Michelle Obama as his VP is your prediction?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so too.
Come on.
Yeah.
Look at the polls. Biden is polling at less than 20%
And they just keep him shielded in a house, so he doesn't have to do.
No. But everybody knows this.
Yeah.
Even the Democrats know this.
Yes.
But what a wonderful thing. We nominate Biden. We know he's an idiot, and you know, and maybe then he's going to say my vice president will pick is Michelle Obama. Then maybe a month before the election, it'll be determined. He'll have a medical test. Oh, we're very sorry to tell you that Mr. Biden has advanced dementia and is not capable of being president. Not that we don't know it already. And at that late date, what can he fucking do? We choose the vice president, and she then will choose her vice president, which will be, yes, you guessed it, Hillary Clinton for the first ticket. 2 women and 1 black woman. Oh, there's an ideal ticket. If that doesn't happen, people then.
That's why, John. That's why you need Mrs. McAfee as your VP.
Unfortunately, no. She doesn't want the job, and
smart lady.
Actually, so I chose myself as the VP. Why? In the Libertarian Party, the presidential nominee does not get to pick the VP. The convention delegates choose the VP. So whoever the president is got to live with the VP. Now, the people who wrote the Libertarian bylaws never dreamed that someone like me would come along and go, you know what? I would have won for both. Because nothing in the bylaws says you cannot run for both president and vice president. And this would be a kicker. The chances of me being nominated are less than 50%, but there was a chance. Unlike 2016, where I came in third, I might actually get it in spite of the luminaries who were running against me. And if I got elected by the convention, was president and vice president slot. There's nothing in U.S. law or constitution that says a political party is putting forth the president and the vice president happens to be the same fucking man. Now, I'm thinking, would this not be the most fun thing in the world? Because I don't want to be president, I want to be vice president. Although it would be fun to consider possibilities. I mean, if I won, then fuck me. I mean, if something went wrong, I could pardon myself. If I were impeached, I would succeed myself as I left the presidency. The vice president rises. My salary would be doubled, both the VP and the president's salary. And as we all know, vice presidents can get away with behavior that no president could possibly get away with. Yep. So, as vice president, I could go out. Listen, I mean, think about it. If somebody had sucked the vice president's dick instead of President Clinton's, do you think anybody would have given a shit? No. So I could behave any way I want. And when people come, they go, "Hey, you cannot hold me responsible for the vice president's behavior. For God's sake, deal with him. Get out of my office." Right? No, please. I mean, to me, the possibilities. Yeah. Now, this is absurd, is it not? The most absurd thing. Is it more absurd than the existing corruption, the existing madness, the existing self-serving hypocrisy and greed that currently is there? No, I think not. If you tell me that you're being stupid and absurd, I go, you show me why I am less stupid and absurd than this fucking government that exists here now, today, ruling your sorry asses. If you show me. So anyway, I'm doing this because I really am running for president. But the fact that I'm also running for vice president, it's going like, what the fuck? And it gives me a chance to say yes. Yep. You tell me that is more idiotic, absurd, and belittling
Yep.
than the reality around us today.
Well, John, I appreciate it, man. I think you know, in an ocean of just these actors, imposters who have their Washington focus groups on what to say, how to say, and you never ever actually getting the real person. I appreciate people like yourself who, you know, it's raw and unfiltered. You say what you think, and we need a lot more of that in these national conversations. So I'm fucking excited to see you in these debates, man. It'll be fun. And I'm sure the crypto community be pumped too, man. We always want to have a soldier in there, somebody talking about the inevitable, you know?
Here's the weird fucking thing. I've done no campaigning really. I just on my Twitter making fun of myself. And yet in the libertarian polls that are starting to come out, I am leading by a massive majority, and I haven't campaigned. I've got no staff in any of these states that are doing their primaries. Now, some of them are pulling dirty tricks, like in Illinois. They took my name off the ballot.
Wow.
So my supporters had to write me in, but people did. People are sending me the fucking ballots with my name written in. The Libertarian National Party removed my name from the website. And every request we have to put it back, they don't respond. So listen, I have touched a nerve somewhere, because if I was just some ludicrous person, they would ignore me. But I am, in fact, ludicrous, but not just some ludicrous person. I'm a crazy motherfucking ludicrous person. And I am unpredictable and therefore dangerous. And, you know, they're trying to shut me down. And, okay, so here's another thing. I'm doing libertarian debates, okay, tomorrow. So Jacob Hornberger, the ex-Supreme Court judge, who is also running for the libertarian thing. So every time I'm on a debate and he gets randomly scheduled, they move him to another debate. Now, so he was on the debate on Friday, so I moved myself to the debate. I was on scheduled for last night, so I moved myself to the debate on Friday. Now he moved himself somewhere else. They're not going to let him debate me. Why? I will ream him a new fucking asshole, people. I will. And everybody knows that, and therefore they do not want their party heartthrob to get demolished by a madman.
Man, there's a lot of that going on. You know, you see it in both of the two, you know, major parties, as well as the, you know, Libertarian Party. Just a lot of shielding of candidates, of people who were speaking openly and freely. You saw it with, you know, Tulsi Gabbard and the rules changing for her not to be able to get into debates, and how all that shook down. But John, I wanted to ask you, I wanted your take on this to get your insight. So obviously we're at a point where, you know, countries are, I mean, we already have been, but printing money into oblivion to pay for all the different programs, as well, and give it, you know, as well as giving people, you know, sort of enough just to keep them from rioting. But we're printing, you know, in the U.S. trillions of dollars, in other countries, you know,
eight, I think it is
things.
now.
Yeah, 8 trillion, right?
Isn't it?
I think so.
Okay, well, okay, let me explain for those of you who do not understand simple economics. It is not possible to maintain an economy by simply printing money. If it were, then by logic, there'd be no need for us to go to work, any of us. We just sit home, the government would print checks for us. I mean, how easy would that be? They wouldn't even need to collect taxes. Just keep printing money. How easy is that?
Yeah, why pay taxes if we can just print money?
Here's what happens when economies collapse, like Germany. The German economy began to collapse in the middle of World War II. Now, at the beginning of World War II, a German mark, 1 mark was almost equivalent to $1. 4 years later, they were printing 10 billion mark notes, and a loaf of bread cost 50 billion marks, and people were taking money to the store in wheelbarrows. And at the end, you couldn't count it. And so everything collapsed, and millions starved to death. And you think that cannot happen? And it's not Germany. This has happened over and over and over around the world every few years in some stupid country that decides, let's just print some money and it'll take care of it. America has now become one of those stupid countries. And no, I'm sorry, people. You're looking at a future of horrific times. And if you think there's not going to be millions of Americans that aren't going to starve as a result, then you simply have not looked at history and know nothing about even the basics of economics.
Yeah. So two questions then on that, John. I think so. One of those is when do you think that we'll start to see, some of those effects? Obviously, America, our politicians can make shittier decisions, and we have a bit of a lag time because of our
Yes,
dollar's
well, yeah, right.
positioning in the world.
It probably,
But
it
eventually,
probably,
that comes.
it eventually comes.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to do some fancy fucking footwork and dance steps for the next 6 months to try to, hey, that part's falling. Somebody go over there and dance it up, right? Until finally the dance steps no longer can match the increasing the increasing tempo of the drum beat, and at that point, game over, people. And I think 6 months. I don't think they can do that. I don't think they can maintain, sustain. They'll print more money at first, so they will first devalue the dollar to nothing. I think in a year the dollar will be worth 1/10 at most of what it is. And if your rent today is $1,000, it's going to be 10,000 in a year. And if a loaf of bread costs $1 now, it'll be $10 in a year. If a car costs 20,000, it's going to cost 200,000. A gallon of gas, if it's $4, will be 40.
So
this is what it means when you devalue a currency by printing more. People, this is just what happens.
And so I think what's good, and I think a lot of people at this point, when some of this is maybe new for some people know that these things are likely coming. But what does somebody do? I mean, I obviously for some in our space, the obvious answer is buy Bitcoin, buy things with fixed value supplies that can can counteract these bad monetary principles. But what does somebody do, John? And what do you think that could be done for an individual and also yourself in a position?
I can promise you Bitcoin is not going to be the thing, because Bitcoin lost its value when it lost its functionality. It was superseded by coins that had smart contracts, could support distributed apps, privacy. Bitcoin has no privacy. If you send me a Bitcoin or I send you one forever after, I can look in your wallet and go, well, goddamn, you made $300,000 last year. Notice you sent $400,000 to the Rolls Royce of England. What kind of car did you buy? No, that's what Bitcoin is. Please, people, no one thinks this shit through. No, if you want to get into something, be Monero, the most widely used cryptocurrency on the planet.
You said Monero?
100 times more than Monero. This used 100 times more than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's got the market share because there are stupid people out there buying it. But no, the coin of the greatest use is Monero. Nobody takes Bitcoin anymore. It's worthless. I'm sorry. It doesn't function anymore for the reasons I just told you. No privacy. If you use Bitcoin, everybody knows exactly how much money you fucking got. And if you move it to another wallet, they watch that. They just go and look at the other wallet. You see the ridiculousness of it. No, so it's got no value, and do not get into that. But even cryptocurrency at all, listen, the whole world's not going to jump into it because, good God, it takes weeks just to understand the concept. And you think a general plumber or your mom is just going to jump? No, please God, that's not happening, people. And gold, silver, you can't eat gold, you can't build a house out of it, and it won't keep you warm. So that I do not know. I really do not know. You guys have to figure that out for yourself. But what you can do now to ameliorate this insanity that's coming is to raise your voices together. And all of you out there have social media. Why don't you all now, when I'm finished, go and post in large caps as your title. No more caps, 5 exclamation points, and say, this is what's really happening. I refuse to hide in fear. I refuse to be deceived for another second. I refuse to believe not one more word of government propaganda. And I refuse to believe anything that the mainstream media tells me or shows me. Even the videos. Good God, people, please. What's one thing that's come out of this? Proof that every fucking media outlet manufactures videos. They hire goddamn actors to scare you.
Did you see the Project Veritas videos just the other
No,
day?
well, tell me about it. I don't get out much.
Yeah, no, no, they somebody who was working with they were doing the drive up tests. I forget which state it was in. I'm blanking on it, but there was all the, a guy was there who was mic'd up, and people were saying, "Hey, NBC's coming to film. We don't really have a big line." So they manufactured and told nurses to go wait in line as if there's all these people waiting to get tested and vaccine,
Yes,
and
yes,
they're just
yes,
setting
yes,
it up.
yes,
It's
absolutely.
it's just prop
Course
placement.
it's all a fucking charade manufactured, just like they make a movie, and they make movies that are so realistic that you believe them. Even Star Wars and Jurassic Park are so realistic, you get scared when the Tyrannosaurus Rex jumps out and eats somebody. But there are no Tyrannosaurus Rex. He's not really eating somebody, but we still feel fear. Same thing with the media people. Yeah. We have time for one more question, my friend.
So what are you excited about, John? What do you see on the horizon that's rocking now that you have that gives you optimism, that you're excited about, that people may or may not know about?
Well, crypto is, I think, the future in the long term. It's not going to help us in the short term.
Any other projects besides Monero as well?
That's not my project. My projects are McAfee DEX, the first truly distributed and decentralized exchange. Why did I do that? Because centralized exchanges, they tear down everything that we're building as people to protect ourselves. Privacy, yeah. Monero gives you great privacy, but you got to exchange it on a centralized exchange. At that moment, all of your privacy disappears, people, because that centralized exchange is asking who you are. Some of them want copies of your passport, want your email address, your address, your bank information. You got no privacy at all. Why do they do that? Because governments are putting their thumbs down. With a distributed exchange, you can't do that. No one controls it, and it's distributed so that you can't shut it down. Now, for our DEX, we don't ask who you are. We don't take any documents. We don't want an email address. We don't even keep your IP address. You are completely anonymous no matter what you're trading. So whatever you're trading, no one will ever fucking know. And the SEC is up in arms against distributed exchanges. Why? They can't control them. And if they came and said, "All right, shut it down," I go, "I can't. It's smart contracts on the blockchain." You people need to understand something. The blockchain is what? An immutable record of reality. Immutable. Well, I included as part of that record of reality the logic for the McAfee DEX. Now, if that was not, I'm sorry, I'm patting myself on the head or on the shoulder. Good job, John. That was clever, wasn't it? However, it makes it impossible to shut it down, no matter how bad world governments think it is. Fuck you. It's still there. I mean, they can arrest me, execute me, torture me. I can't change it. Nobody, God himself, could not change it without first changing the laws of physics and mathematics that rule this world. Now, I'm sure he could do that, but then it'd be a different world, wouldn't it? So no, that's why, one of the reasons, the main reason I'm in hiding, well, the IRS is after me, that's obvious. They convened a grand jury after I started speaking on national stages about distributed exchanges. People frees you from government control, and you don't have to pay taxes anymore because nobody will ever know what money you make and how you spend it, which should be your prerogative, for God's sake, people. In any case, I'm out of time. I'm not strong. I'd love to talk to you again anytime you'd like. I'll ask Janice to put you on the magic list, 1 out of 10 or so.
Okay.
I'm willing to do a second pass to it. You've been very polite to me, Dallas, and by letting me rant, okay? Many of the podcasters make it all about them, and so they do have the talking. That's fine. I'll let them do that. But I tell Janice, don't ever do another podcast.
No, I'm here to hear your thoughts, John. I think as most people are on. But thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it. I'll definitely reach out to her again, and we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Thanks. See you, John.
Bye.
Bye.
Maybe put this on